The Canadian Tulip Festival is proud to present Dutch folk tales. Today's story is The Lady of Stavoren. Many long years ago, the fine harbor at Staverden welcomed ships from many countries, and many countries were in turn visited by the ships of Staverden. So rich and proud became the city's merchants that they fitted their doors with handles and hinges of gold. One of these merchants was a young widow, richest of the rich and proudest of the proud. They called her the Lady of Stavoren, and she would stop at nothing to prove that she was better than her fellow merchants. She filled her grand house with the most costly goods from wherever her ships had visited, but no matter how hard she tried, her rivals always found a way to copy her. "I must show them once and for all that I am their better," she said to herself. "Somehow I must get hold of the most precious thing in the world." One evening, the lady attended a grand ball at the home of another merchant. There she met a rich and handsome sea captain who had just sailed into Staverden. He asked her for every dance, and from that day forward, the lady and the captain were always together, her arm in his. He grew to love her more than anything else in the world. It was not long before the captain knelt before her and slipped a large ruby ring onto her finger. "My lady, will you honor me by becoming my wife?" "Gladly, dear captain," said the lady. "But there is one condition. As a wedding gift, you must bring me the most precious thing in the world." Well, the captain looked startled. "The most precious thing? What is that, and where do I find it?" he asked. "If I knew," said the lady, "I would have purchased it myself. I ask you to discover it and bring it to me." The next day, the captain sailed from Staverden in search of the most precious thing in the world. Months passed. Everyone in Staverden knew of the captain's quest. Wherever the lady went, she heard people guessing what the most precious thing might be. "A magnificent gown," said one. "Oh, a marvelous statue," said another. "A pearl as big as an egg," said yet another. Many months passed, and at long last, the captain's ship was sighted entering the harbor. The people of Staverden streamed to the dock. Finally, the lady arrived, dressed in her finest. The captain's ship was just docking. "My lady," he called, "I have brought you what you desired, the most precious thing in the world." "What is it, my captain?" called back the lady, barely able to contain her excitement. "I visited many ports in many lands," the captain said. "I saw many wonderful things. Alas, none was the most precious of all. But at last, in a city far, far away, I came across it." "But what is it?" said the lady impatiently. "Wheat!" cried the captain. "My ship is filled with wheat." "Wheat," said the lady. Her face grew white. Behind her, she heard laughter from the crowd. "Did you say wheat?" "Yes, dear lady," said the captain joyously. "What could be more precious, more valuable than wheat? For without our daily bread, What good are all the treasures of the world?" Well, the lady was silent for a moment, listening to the whispers and snickers of the crowd. At last she spoke. "So, this wheat now belongs to me to do with as I like?" "Yes, my love, it is my wedding gift to you." "Then," said the lady, "pour it into the harbor." "What?" "Pour it into the harbor, every grain of it." "My lady," said the captain, "there is enough wheat here to feed a city. If you have no use for it, then give it to the poor and hungry. After all, you too may someday be in need." "Me? In need?" shrieked the lady. In anger, she plucked from her finger the ruby ring the captain had given her and held it high. "This ring will return to my hand before I am ever in need." And with all her might, she flung the ring far into the harbor. The captain spoke not another word to her, but turned to his men and said, "Cast off." When the ship reached the harbor mouth, the captain had his men pour all the wheat overboard. Then he sailed from the harbor, never to return. The next day, the lady held a grand feast for all of the richest merchants of Staverden. She spared no expense. At the height of the festivities, a huge roast fish was set before her. As she was about to cut into it, the lady saw something glinting in the fish's mouth. She pulled out the object and held it up. The diners gasped. The lady turned pale. It was the ruby ring. A few weeks later, the fishermen of Staverden found that a sandbar was building beneath the water at the harbor's mouth. The discarded wheat had sprouted and grown. Soon, the tall ships could not enter, and the harbor was ruined. And so went the fortunes of the city. Most of the merchants lost everything. Among them was the Lady of Stavoren. To this day, in the tiny town of Staverden, there is a sandbar that is called Lady's Sand, a reminder of how the Lady of Stavoren scorned the most precious thing in the world.